My career is built off of cold emails, lies / delusional confidence, and a little bit of free work.
This is Sean. He's a VJ and concert visuals designer for major music festivals and live events. Sean has worked with artists like Tyler the Creator, Tiësto, Shakira, and many more, creating unforgettable visual experiences that bring music to life for thousands of fans around the world.
It's kind of like being in a band. You're just feeling the music together. Everyone gets in position, and when the next drop comes, everybody drops out and the lasers go crazy, and then we're all like, yeah.
Do you have any crazy story?
Every single show, this will happen.
Oh no.
How do you prepare technically and also artistically for a show?
I'll use Unreal to make like a previs version of the stage, really see what the show's going to look like before you even show up.
More people are seeing into the world of the music that we like, but also they care a lot more about the visuals. You can be a 2D artist and get into VJing. You can be a 3D artist and get into VJing. How did you find out about VJing?
Sean, welcome to the Bad Decisions podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting.
Absolutely. Me and Faraz, we are very interested in the audio-visual experiences. And it was a few weeks ago when we were on YouTube and looking through videos, and we stumbled upon your video in which you were analyzing Eric Prydz' Holo show. And for those who don't know, Eric Prydz, one of our favorite DJ, he's one of the pioneers in the audio-visual experiences. He really took the events to another level with his visuals. And when we looked at your video, it was very well done. You went through all the different techniques that he used, the use of negative spaces, the use of 3D, of how he elevated the entire experience. And then we went to your channel and we started seeing your tutorials, your podcast. And what was really interesting for us is that you were a VJ for major festivals like EDC and Orlando. You worked with DJs like Tiësto, Rüfüs Du Sol. The first question that came to mind was, how did you get into VJing?
Yeah, so that was back in 2015 or so. I lived in Boston, and I had been messing around with making concert visuals and doing some projection mapping and stuff for like psytrance events and whatnot. And playing around with Resolume just like in my apartment, setting up a projector, playing around with it because I wanted to see where the end point of my content was. I needed to understand where the content was going in order to make it well. That's what I thought. So I was just playing around, and I met a few of the like local VJs around the Boston scene at that time, and they were putting on a VJ competition. And I thought that sounded like fun. So I actually, I recorded a mix in my bedroom and I submitted it and got accepted into this competition and ended up winning it.
What?
Which was crazy
because
that was my...
about? So you had to submit a video or?
It was a live VJing competition. So we, a bunch of VJs from Boston and some people flew in from Chicago and Philadelphia and all over America, kind of flew into Boston, and there was a DJ there, and each VJ would go up and just like throw down a set for a couple of songs. And it was graded on all these, timing and art, content and all this stuff. So this was my first time VJing outside of my bedroom ever. Like I had never VJ'd in public. I was so nervous. But I guess I got lucky. I got like a dubstep song, which is what I was into at the time. So, and all the content that I had made for this competition was like dubstep robots and like fire and stuff. So it actually worked out really well. Some of the other guys got like weird IDM stuff and like super arrhythmic and whatnot. So I kind of got an easy song and threw down the best that I could. And they're like reading off, the winners and whatnot. And they're like, oh, fourth place, not me. Third place, not me. I'm like, well, that's it. It's definitely, I just stopped listening at that point. Second place wasn't me. And then when they said my name for first place, I wasn't even paying attention. It like took a little bit to register because I didn't believe them. But so that competition sort of got me a little bit of recognition in the scene. And I started hanging out more with some of the VJs. And one of the guys was going away for, I think it was Tommy Etkin. He's a good friend still. He's a genius. But he was going away and needed somebody to fill in for a drum and bass gig in Cambridge. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that. Like, I'm down. So I just filled in, did all right at that, and started doing that whenever he was sick. And then our other friend, John Bonk, who's another important person in my life story, he moved to LA. So a slot opened up, and I became a regular at this like small drum and bass event in Boston called Elements. It's actually the longest running drum and bass event in the US since like 1999. It's been every Thursday at the same venue, which is pretty crazy. So that's where I started out. And yeah, what happened after that?
Actually, if you don't mind me, I just want to know, before you even got into all of this, how did you find out about VJing? Because you understand, and we understand after having done a lot of research, that you can be a 2D artist and get into VJing. You can be a 3D artist and get into VJing. You can use Cinema 4D. You can use Blender, Unreal, Resolume, Touch Designer. There's so many tools out there, and you don't necessarily have to start with one pipeline. There's dozens of them.
Actually, can you be not an artist and become a VJ? Means use other people's content and just VJ it. Can we do that?
Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Yeah, there are VJs. It's like the difference between a DJ and a music producer. Like some music producers just make music. Some DJs just DJ. Some people do both. I do both. I make content and VJ. I think I'm more of a content animator than a VJ. But I like doing both because, as I said, I really like understanding the full pipeline of things and seeing how content works on screen as the end user of it. So I got into it through the content side. Like I was, if we go way back, I was into drawing and, photoshopping things for my friends and like
fake IDs.
Give a little more nerdy than that, like giving people lightsabers and shit like that, and like forum sigs and band flyers and stuff like that. So that's where I started out, and I went to college for graphic design, and while I was there, kind of got interested in animation using After Effects, Cinema 4D a little bit, and I was listening to a lot of electronic music at the time. And I went to a few concerts. This was probably 2011 or so that had projection mapping. One was this little band called Tiësto. They're like a duo that does live improvised electronic music, and they had a projection mapped stage in the shape of a lotus flower. I thought that was really cool. And also like Excision was doing his Executioner stage at the time. Infected Mushroom was touring with those orbs. So I was seeing all these shows with projection mapping, and I'm like, something clicked where I was like, somebody has to make that.
Yeah.
And I could make that with After Effects and Cinema 4D, I think. So like, how do I do that? So I looked up who made those shows, and I just started emailing them, asking them like, how do you do this? I want to be you.
Really?
How do I do this?
Cold emails.
Yeah, cold emails. My whole career is built off cold emails, basically.
Did it work? Did you get any reply back?
Yeah, so this one guy, Zebler, replied back to me. He's the guy that made the Lotus Flower stage for that band Tiësto. He also did some work for Spangel, who's another psytrance DJ, if you're into that scene, and a bunch of like psytrance festivals and stuff like that. So I emailed him, and he got back to me. Short email that was just like, look up projection mapping, Resolume, and Cinema 4D, and like look it up on the internet. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do that. So screw schoolwork. I'm not making brochures or websites or any of that shit anymore. Like I'm doing this. I'm trying to figure out projection mapping. So that's where those experiments in my apartment started. I was just like staying up all night, looking up YouTube tutorials about Cinema 4D and just like playing with a projector in my apartment kitchen, because that was the biggest room in there. Just like building stuff out of foam board and like trying to figure out how projection mapping works. So that's really how I got into it, I guess.
That's really interesting because I feel like a lot of people are afraid to take that first step, which is, you know, the cold email, or right now in 2024, it probably would be the cold DMs. A lot of people are afraid because, first of all, they don't think that their DMs will ever be read, and they think that they are lowering their self-esteem by doing so because they're reaching out for help. But I think that, especially if you're starting out, that is perhaps the best way to do things, because it definitely motivated you in the first place when the guy you looked up to responded back, even though it was a short email and he just gave you 2-3 lines based on what you said. That's all you needed to get the ball rolling, and look at where you are now. So how much of the cold emails are you still working on right now? Do you still do them, or at this point in your career, you're not doing them as much anymore?
So I don't do them as much anymore, because I'm just kind of bad at outreach now. But like, yeah, throughout all the pivotal points in my career, like a cold email is what kicked it off. So that first one is like what sparked the interest and what got me set down the path. After college, I emailed that same guy again and was like, hey, can you like look at my reel? I'd love to, you know, just get your feedback, and like I'm looking for a job and all this stuff. And so he gave me some feedback on the reel, but he's like, actually, I need some help with a project that I'm working on right now. Do you know Cinema 4D? And I was like, yeah, totally. You know, I don't know, a little bit of naive confidence or Dunning-Kruger effect or something like that. But like, yeah, I know that for sure. So he sent me a little, like a test project to do. And so I took the template for this projection mapping installation he was working on for DEF CON Hacker Convention and made a little test animation and sent it back to him. This was all, you know, free work, but I had nothing to show for myself. So like it gave me an opportunity to like prove myself that I knew Cinema 4D, because I didn't have much in my reel. And he liked it and ended up hiring me on to make a few looks for that project. So that was one cold email that kind of kicked me off in my first projection mapping gig after college. And we ended up working together for a few years, which is great.
And what were you thinking? Sorry, I want to stay on this. What were you thinking when you were doing the free work initially? Because a lot of people now resist doing any kind of free work to get their foot in the door.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where people come from with that, but when you have nothing to show for yourself, like that's the way to go. I think that's when it's almost essential to do some free work, whether you're doing it for somebody or for yourself. This is, you know, personal projects are the same thing. Like you need to create an example of the work that you want to do. Nobody's going to hire you if they can't see clearly that you're able to do the thing that you need to do. So I had nothing to show for myself, and him as the employer, you know, he's taking a huge risk hiring me without any proof that I can actually pull this off. So for me, I was like, oh my God, this is my break. This is my opportunity. The door is open. I need to crush this. So I like stayed up for a week straight trying to render this.
I love that
3D projection mapping thing out on my like old iMac. You know, this is like 2012, 2013. That thing was, and I had that thing for years. So highly underpowered, but I'm like, I need to make this good and prove myself. So yeah, I think that's really the only time free work is really good. But you know, you can, if you don't like the idea of doing it for somebody else, like do it for yourself. People do. I'm really bad about personal projects, but like you have to do the work you want to get hired for before you can get hired for it. So make a personal project or do something for a friend, something like that. It's a great way to get your foot in the door. Don't be scared off by free work. Just make sure that it is a direct pathway to paid work.
Yes. This is,
and then I think it's okay.
Very powerful. We ourselves, it happened to us millions of times when we create content about something that we are interested in, and in a few weeks we get a DM related to that content that we created. the industry that you want to get into, if you create content around it, you will get hired for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, and one more thing about what Sean just mentioned that was really important for me is the irrational self-belief, is the little bit of delusional thinking of believing in yourself. You have to have that. You almost have to always have that when you begin, because no one's going to exactly look for the precise skill set that you currently have. You might be good at a few things, but not at a lot of things. And so whenever someone reaches out to you, they probably want something that you haven't fully done before. So you need to learn some things, but you kind of have to lie a little bit and be a little bit delusional into thinking you can actually do it. And you have to show them that you can, else they won't hire you. But you have to put in the work to understand and learn those things. And thankfully, because of the internet, you can pretty much learn anything. Anybody reaches you for anything, you can learn it online. We've done that many, many times. So to anybody who's ever hired us, we probably lied to you a little bit in the beginning.
In the first meeting, but you get the final result at the end.
Exactly. But as long as you put in the work, you get it done. So do you agree with this? You do have to be a little bit delusional in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd say those are the three things that my career is built off of: cold emails, lies / delusional confidence, and a little bit of free work.
Okay, so we're going to clip this part. We're going to clip this part. My career is built on three things: lies, delusion.
That's going to be the thumbnail and the title. And we're going to send it to everybody Sean's ever worked with.
Hey, man, yeah, the truth is out there now. I don't know what to tell you, but it's true.
Going back to the cold email, so you sent the second cold email, and you had to do the free work, but that ended up giving you a job for a few years. This is still in Boston, am I right?
Yeah. So I got a job at an ad agency, and I was working with this guy Zebler on the side, like moonlighting nights and weekends, doing concert visual stuff. My day job was working at an ad agency for we serviced record labels, which was cool. Super fast turnaround. It was really great being around a bunch of, an actual design team in an office working on deadlines. That was really helpful to me. But yeah, cold emails. The next cold email was after that. I worked in Boston for a few years and decided I wanted to move to LA to chase the dream of doing concert visuals full time.
Why LA? LA was the place for that?
Yeah, all the studios that I was following, V Squared Labs, these guys called Imminent, who I work with a lot, Possible, yeah, a bunch of, all the studios were out here. So I'm like, that's the place to be. I got to go there.
Right.
I had never been to LA before. I basically knew nobody. I knew one person, my friend John Bonk, that moved out here. So I moved out here with him. My wife and I, my girlfriend at the time, and now my wife, moved to LA, moved in with him. And yeah, I sent like 100 cold emails on the drive out here.
Wow.
And
what did a cold email look like?
Yeah, I could send you the template. So I actually, I stole a template from a book by Joey Korenman. The Freelance Manifesto.
The Freelance Manifesto.
They had Joey on the pod, I think, a few months ago.
Great book, amazing book. So many amazing resources in there, and that is the Freelance Manifesto. If you read that, follow those steps, you can find a successful freelance career. So I basically stole one of those templates, and the gist of it is like, hey, I love your work. Call out something specific that they've actually done and why you like it. I just moved to LA. I also do this type of thing. A couple bullet points about the things that I'm good at. Here's my work. If you're interested, would love to get a beer, get a coffee, whatever. No real ask for a job, no anything. I'm just trying to make people aware that I exist, because that's the first step and the most important step. These people don't know that you even exist, so you just got to remind them. And even after you've been introduced to people or worked with people, it's good to every few months or so just remind them that you exist and you're working on something cool. So yeah, I sent 100 of those to basically every studio that I could find. And yeah, 2, 3 got back to me at first, but you know, the 2 of those, one of those I still work with like all the time. They probably give me like half of my jobs every year, and one of them, you know, I worked with for several years, up until the pandemic or so. So like, yeah, just send. It's like throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. You know.
Was it hard in the beginning when you moved to LA, not knowing anybody, not knowing the future of your career and where you're gonna work for?
Yeah, it was a little bit hard, but it was exciting. You know, I was out here, I was doing it, and like it had to work. You know, I saved up a little bit of money, but not enough. And so like it had to work. Rent was due pretty soon. So like, you know, I sent all those emails. I made sure that by the time I got across the country to LA, I had some interviews lined up, and I got my first gig like within a week or 2 of being here. And that was, it was Syndrome Studio working on Shakira El Dorado World Tour, which is pretty crazy. I was like, nice. Yeah. I made the right decision. LA's pretty cool. There's some cool jobs out here. So yeah, it was scary, and it's still hard, you know, like freelance life is not for everybody. It can be really stressful. It's very inconsistent. I have like a graph of my monthly revenue every month since I've been here, and it's just like a plate of spaghetti. There is no trend. Like there's, you know, it goes from 0 to 20,000 in a month. Like it's and everywhere in between. Yeah, it's like it's nuts. So, you know, yeah, there's been some times where it got pretty stressful.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
What is your advice to someone who wants to start freelancing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it would be, I need to think about this for a minute.
Take your time.
My advice for somebody who wants to start freelancing. I think in my opinion, you should really have some experience before doing that. I mean, maybe it's just like bias because that's how it worked for me. But like it's kind of hard, and it could be quite isolating. So, you know, you don't get that benefit of learning from the people around you as much, especially now. A lot of studios have gone fully remote. So it helps to cut your teeth like in a in-office environment around a design team, and like learn how deadlines work and delivery specs and all this stuff with some people that can help you. So that's number one. Like, don't just straight out of college go freelance. Some people can do it, but I think it's really hard. The other thing is, remember that it's like you're a business owner now too. So like there's a lot of bookkeeping and emails and client acquisition. Like it's not just doing whatever you want all day and making cool shit. Like there's a lot of extra work that you pick up when you have to run the whole operation yourself. So, you know, yeah, you can work anytime you want, but a lot of times you're working all the time instead. You can take any days off that you want, but there's no PTO or sick days or any of that either. So though, you know, doom and gloom, sorry. Other than that, I think just like, you know, be organized, be proactive, just keep putting yourself out there, like cold emails, sending DMs, keep reminding people that you exist. This is not advice that I follow, but like do some personal projects, post some work all the time, keep up with your socials and whatnot. I don't follow any of this advice, by the way. It's I'm like the worst freelancer that there is, so you really shouldn't listen to me.
You know, I do want to go back to one thing that you mentioned about the fact that it was exciting, even though it was challenging when you left to LA, because there's this concept of burning the boats. When you really want to go on an adventure, you can choose to burn the boats, which means there's no going back. And when you burn all the boats and you don't leave any path backwards for yourself, any safety, any plan B, usually you'll make plan A work. And that's what's beautiful about it. Because otherwise, if you always have a plan B, there's a very good chance that you'll just think about that and then you'll let it go. And then you'll take some days off and then you'll fall into plan B. So if you don't have a plan B and you're going to LA and you have to make that fucking work, you're going to find a way. You're going to send 110 emails if you have to, or 150 or 200 just to make it work. So I do love that concept of burning the boats. We've done that. How many times now?
3 times.
3 times. We immigrated 3 times. So we've done exactly what you've done. And every time you do that, it is extremely scary. It is extremely frustrating. But if you make it work, it is the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to you. So I just wanted to say I admire the fact that you've done it as well.
Yeah, and I truly believe that is a really important thing to do. It when you get that fight or flight thing activated inside of you, like it's there's no other option. Mm-hmm. You laser focus in and you do what you need to do, even if it sucks a little bit. Yeah. And it just has to work. Yeah. And you put, I'm not big into like the whole manifestation thing or anything, but when you put that idea out that like it has to work, mm-hmm. It just has to.
Yeah. And you got to kind of do that once in a while. I feel like at least once or twice in your life as a human being, you should not come into this world and never have that sort of fight or flight experience. And the thing is, we live in a protected society. We're living in a civilized society. So you can choose to ignore all of these challenges if you want to, and you can live a very safe life. But I feel like at times you need to take that step, that leap of faith, and go for something that is quite adventurous.
I thought of a couple of other things that I think are important. I think that in addition to burning the boats, not having a plan B, having clear goals was really important. Mm-hmm. As that might be a little bit obvious, but like I had, and the other thing is have like a chip on your shoulder or a little bit of a challenge, something to prove.
Mm-hmm. What was yours?
When I quit my job in Boston, I remember my boss. He's a really nice guy, but very direct, and he told me. He was like, I wish you good luck out there and all that, but I give it like 5 years. I think like most freelancers don't last more than 5 years.
What?
So before they'll just go back and get a real job again.
Oh.
And I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And sorry, Gogi, I love you, man. I hope I'm not defaming or misrepresenting you in any way, but. Yeah, that idea I was like, well, I'm going to fucking make it at least to 6 years.
Yeah. Just got to make sure he's not right.
Yeah, exactly. And so, 7 years in, still not homeless, still haven't got a full-time job.
Nice.
Let's go.
I like
now
that.
I can do whatever I want. And, I would have clear goals. I lay out like revenue goals. I got to make at least more than I did last year, more than I did at my full-time job, so I never get tempted to go back to a full-time job. Or things that were in my control also, like I need to send 10 emails every day until I get that job. Things like that. I think were really important to keep me like moving in the right direction.
I think having a reason is really important. And what you mentioned about having a clear goal, I think me and Farah sometimes sit down and look at how many goals do we have and how many of them we should omit. And we recently omitted a few of them because sometimes having too many goals is also not good because you are diverted into so many directions. You should have a clear goal, as you mentioned, and you should strive to achieve that goal.
Yeah, and I think it's important also to make new ones as you go. Like something I've been struggling with a little bit over the last couple of years is like I've kind of hit a lot of the things I set out to do 5 years ago, 7 years ago. and I forgot to make new ones. You know, like I'm not sure where I'm going next. And so I see all these different roads in front of me, and their destinations are sort of unclear. I can't really see the vision down each of these roads. So I'm like not taking steps to go down any one of them because I don't have that clear, convicted vision.
Have you overcome that, or still a challenge?
No, I'm still in that. It's kind of a weird time for me right now. Still, still going through that.
You know what we were thinking about with Faraz? When you start, it's much easier to set a goal because you have nothing. And there is a clear vision right in front of you. I want to
anything is a vision, because if you have nothing, any
anything
goal works.
Exactly. I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. I want to have 1 million views on YouTube. I want to get this job. I want to have this much money. But when you reach those goals, and then you think, do I want to reach 1 million subscribers on YouTube? Do I want to reach that amount of money? Do I want to get that job? And now you have so many options. And I think people who can choose which option is best for them and just think about that, because others are very tempting at the same time, they are doing a great job.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's an interesting place. It's like, you know, little like midlife crisis. Far from that.
Turning this into a therapy session.
So Sean, tell us, how do you feel today? No, but I do want to say one more thing though. I do. You can lay down if you like, by the way. You can get your cat bean and start petting bean while we speak with you, just to comfort you. But jokes aside, I do want to say that I like the way you call it midlife crisis, but me and Farah also reached that stage. Not a midlife crisis, but it's the best way to put it, I guess. The thing is, you reach some goals. It's like climbing a mountain. I think Naval Ravikant was saying this on a Joe Rogan podcast, where you reach a mountain and now you're looking, you know, across the horizon and you see more mountains. And now if you want to go to those other mountains, you have to climb back down and then climb another mountain. So there's a little curve down before you go to the next one. So you got to be willing to risk more of your time, more of your money for that next adventure. That's why it's so difficult, because now you have more to lose. When you start out, you don't have anything to lose. Now you're like, if I make that switch, I have to basically, instead of spending time, let's say on VJing in this software, I have to go learn this new software now. Is that going to be worth my time? Or this new skill that is completely outside of VJing, is that worth my time? Because time is limited at the end of the day. And if you're making money, that's the only other resource that you care about, which is time. So for us, it's also a problem because we're two different people. We have a lot of desires, and we're picking up new ones every single day, and choosing which one to focus on for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years is perhaps the most difficult, yet the most important decision. So I genuinely understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if there's a tie-in to, like, sometimes you gotta, like, burn some more boats and just, like, cut some ties and start fresh.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like the pandemic kind of forced that on a lot of people.
Yes.
And it did the same thing for me. And that'll actually bring us to our another free work story, if you want to hear that.
Of course.
So yeah, pandemic, obviously live shows kind of went away overnight.
Are you in LA at that time, or you're in Boston?
Yeah,
LA.
I'm in LA, and yeah, just had a pretty amazing 2019. Things were going crazy. I had worked with the last project I did in 2019. I was working with this company Imminent on Tyler the Creator's Grammy performance. I had like work in the Grammys. It was one of the first times like my parents understood what I did, because they like saw it on TV and they're like, "Oh, that's impressive, nice."
Well, you had a real job.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, I guess you're not just playing with shapes and colors out in LA. Yeah, so had a bunch of festivals booked for 2020, and gone. So, sat around for a couple weeks because it was only going to last a couple weeks. Not sure what I was going to do. And I saw, as, the summer progressed, I started seeing people playing around with Unreal and this like virtual production idea. So I started playing around with that a little bit on my own, telling people that I was doing that. And Drew Best from Imminent and I got together with some guys over at Nightlight Studio, and we formed this thing we called the Saturday Sessions, where every Saturday we would go and just do research and development on virtual production, with our goal being like live shows in a virtual environment. So that's what we were kind of moving towards. So we did a bunch of that. We spent, a few months every Saturday getting together, just making stuff. We were recreating shows we did in the past, inside Notch, inside Unreal, and trying to just figure out a system for making live virtual shows in an interesting way. And so that, that's a lot of, obviously we had a bunch of free time, so it didn't really matter. There was no money. There was no paid work happening, so it wasn't so painful to do free work. But we did that, and I started DMing people, hey, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm working on. And I connected with JT Rooney over at Silent Partner Studio, because he was posting about looking for somebody to do some virtual production in Unreal. So I was like, yeah, I've been playing around with that. I know how to do that. They're like, really?
Delusion kicked in again.
Yeah. They're like, really? We haven't, we're really having trouble finding somebody that actually knows how this works. I'm like, I got it to work. I fucking barely got it to work. I did not know what I was getting into, but they hired me at their new company that they had, Silent Partners and Silent House had joined forces to make XR Studios, and I got hired to figure out the Unreal workflow with Disguise for the VMAs, which they were doing virtually that year. And man, I was in so far over my head. But like, once again, it had to work, The show was coming up. Yeah. I said I could do it. So I was like digging in manuals, pixel peeping videos, just trying anything that I could to make this thing work. And yeah, it worked out. Wow. I don't know how, but it worked.
Amazing.
No, this is crazy what you're talking about. I mean, the COVID era was definitely an interesting one because it did force a lot of people to burn the boats. And that was the only way forward because you had nothing else to do. So in hindsight, I do appreciate what happened to me personally because I learned a lot during that time. But we talked a lot about the story. I want to move a little bit into the actual technical work in terms of your day-to-day and also your artistic work. Me and Farhad we've always been curious about the workflow of a VJ artist. We had Yasha on the podcast and he broke it down really simply for us. But I understand that every VJ is also different. So if I were to ask you for some of your shows, the ones that you're most proud of, how do you prepare technically and also artistically for a show?
Yeah, that is a good question. And Yasha's the man, dude. He's fucking good. Legend. Yeah. I just have to say that. Really great episode, too. Everybody should watch it. So a lot of the shows that I do on the VJ side, I'll talk about those first. I'm like the house VJ at the festival. So I don't get a ton of preparation time.
Sorry, can you explain what is a house DJ for the audience who don't know?
Yeah, totally. It's the VJ that is hired by the festival to work on a specific stage and just run visuals for everybody that doesn't bring their own VJ.
Do you get notes beforehand? So, for example, if this DJ is playing, do they tell you what is the vibe, what kind of music they're going to play, or it's all on you?
No. They,
do it out there.
Yeah, they don't really send you much. I mean, we try to get them to send their content as early as possible It's, usually maybe a week before, but sometimes it's when they're on stage or during the set right before them. So you get the content, you go through it, you listen to the music. I usually, I'll get the lineup of the festival that I'm doing and just make a playlist and listen to that all week long so that I know what's coming and I can get familiar. Because a lot of, I might be doing 6, 8, 10, 12 artists in a day. So that's a lot of sets to prepare. I don't know all these artists. So I listen to their music, get all their stuff ingested, put into the show file. And what helps me is I have sort of a standard show file for festivals that I use that makes it really easy for me to drop content in at the last minute and it will work. And I could go into a little bit about that if that's interesting to people.
Yes, please.
So I have... I'm going to try to describe this in such a way. Maybe there's some screenshots or something I can send over. But it's I just have a group that I use for all VJ content. Anything, 16:9 that gets sent over to me. I slap that in there, and that group gets mapped across all the screens in different ways. And I have some different controls that I can use to change up the mapping of things, but I could just dump anything in there and it'll get mapped properly. What I like to do with my layers, if I have the time, is organize things by like energy level. I'll start with like chill loops on the bottom, build ups on the next layer, and then breakdowns and like crazy, glitchy high energy stuff on the top. That way I don't have to think as I'm going through, listening to a song that I don't know. I know I can kind of just go 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to 1 over and over. It's electronic music. It's not rocket science. So if I can do that, that helps me. I can just take a quick look at all the clips, categorize them by energy, and then I don't have to know what the clips look like or be familiar with them because I don't have time to be familiar with all their stuff. I know what it's going to look like, and it's going to work for a drop or a build-up. Then I have a bunch of standard, just like generic stuff over top of that that's always in the show. Glitches, strobes, wipes, outlines, things like that I can add over top of it, just like generic stuff that's based on the stage itself and not the artist. So that's sort of the breakdown, and then just a bunch of effects. What I'm usually performing live is adding effects over the top of things so that I can add some musicality, because I don't know the content as well as maybe somebody who's touring with an artist or has made content specifically for songs and things like that. A lot of times you need to add a little bit of extra something just to like hit those musical moments and big sounds. So as I'm like listening, I get this like little synesthesia vibe where like, you just kind of know what sounds look like. And I have effects that look like sounds to me, and I can just sort of drum along and add those extra little like vibrations and digital glitches and things like that to enhance whatever these visuals are. So that's sort of my process for that. You just get a big ass spreadsheet, drop everything in folders, drop it in there, and this might all happen in a day before the show or something like that. It's like, and for Wasteland, none of those guys have VJs, so that's 3 days, 12 hours straight, 150 BPM, wow. 200 BPM all night long. I did the math one time on how many distorted kicks I had to listen to that weekend, and like, jeez. Yeah.
How is the preparation different when you are VJing for a festival like EDC on that scale, and then like a smaller festival or a smaller venue?
EDC, it's a lot more organized, which is nice. And, we usually I'm working with a team of guys, so we're advancing a lot earlier than a smaller festival. We get the stage drawings and the pixel maps and everything a lot earlier and more accurate than a smaller festival or event. So it's helpful. I can actually, I can really prepare a show pretty fully in advance and then show up on site and just you're just checking that everything works. But with the accurate drawings and everything, you're able to map a stage pretty accurately before you even get there, which is nice. And especially with tools like Stage Flow, or I'll use Unreal to make a previs version of the stage sometimes. So you can just check out your mapping and really see what the show is going to look like before you even show up. So that's probably the main difference. Another big difference is just the facilities of the festival. You get front of house, you show up and you have a table, you have power, you have a chair, crazy things that no one would ever think that a VJ would need for an event.
I could see him tearing up a little bit when he was saying that.
Dude,
basic human
the amount of
rights.
times I've had to...
Basic VJ rights.
For
Do you
real.
guys have a union?
No, that's a problem. Yeah. Basic human needs. Let's see. What else? What else is the difference? I don't know. I guess that's another part of the process, is really the mapping part of it, especially for these festivals. There's a lot of, and it's something that I really enjoy doing. There's, big stages, lots of different screen parts. So you have to really spend some time figuring out the mapping of the stage and where you're going to put content. And, sometimes when you're getting content last minute, you just kind of got to blast it all over the place. But when you have some time to spend on it, or if you're working with a specific artist, you can really dial in your mapping a little bit better.
And if I may, I wanted to talk to you about the process of VJing in 2024, because there's a lot of new technology coming around, digital and physical. And I want to know how much of what you do can be automated. What I mean by that is, do you have to play and consistently be on the deck with the DJ, or are you now allowing different tools to come into your workflow where you can connect, let's say, the time code or certain things to automate parts of the work so that you can focus on other creative things while you're working on it? And I think you would know the answer to this best because you're literally playing with these tools and talking about them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of automation, but I think people overestimate the amount of automation that goes into these shows. It's really, most of it is done live. I mean, yes, time code is a thing. If you're working directly with an artist, you can make edited, full song length tracks or visual clips for each song and sync them with time code. And then, you're really just babysitting, making sure the right clip is playing and there's no frame drops. But that's kind of boring, in my opinion. And most shows are really not done that way. I think you'd be surprised how few shows are done with time code, especially DJ shows, especially festival shows. Really only the top level are using time code, and because it's just a lot. It's a lot of work to do in advance. And it locks you into a set list for the most part. That
was one of the questions that we have. So let's look at I would call it the revolution that has been happening. We have seen that there are artists who have now great visuals, and they change the audio experience to an audio visual experience. People like Eric Prydz, of course, Anima from Afterlife, their visuals, we can say that it's all over Instagram now. And they're using the timecode technology. How much freedom and how flexible the DJs are when they are using timecode?
I mean, not very flexible. It really... I mean, you can play any song that you want as long as you have a timecode edited visual to go with it. Or, you can go off script if you have some, just busking VJ loops that you can play along to anything that aren't time-coded. But, you're pretty locked into, this song has to be played. You can change the order of them, whatever. You can drop some out, you can bring some in, but it's fairly rigid, I would say.
But you can change the order technically, right?
Yeah, you can change the order. You don't have to play every song, and if you have the time, the money, the resources to make visuals for tracks you're not going to use all the time, then you can do that. And artists like Anima, Afterlife, artists like Excision, they make twice as much stuff as they need, so they can change the sets every show. But most artists don't have those resources. So when you're building a timecode set for most artists, you're building one set list, and that's pretty much it.
The reason we're asking is because we go to all the festivals. When I say all, as in our favorites, as much as we can, our favorite festivals. And one of the biggest things is when you go to the comment section of Afterlife or Anima, people are now saying, is the DJ actually playing? Because everything's so well synced together. They're always questioning this. And for me and Farhad, first of all, it's interesting to know. And I think the right person to ask is you, because you go behind the scenes. You know everything about what's going on behind the VJ and the DJ deck. But what's interesting for me and Farah is that at the end of the day, I do enjoy the show. And I think that's what matters. Even if they've prepared everything beforehand and are not doing much on the day of the live, or if they're doing everything live. For me, it's about entertaining people at the end of the day, and they're doing it right. Yeah. But I'm still curious. I want to know the answer to the comments. So can the DJ do much? So overall, can the DJ do much when everything's so well synced together? Or the VJ, perhaps, DJ and VJ?
I mean, yeah, the DJ's still DJing. I think people also sometimes overestimate what a DJ is actually doing up there. A lot of the cool transitions and effects are built into a track, and then they're just fading between a couple of tracks. They're not doing a lot of. Some DJs are. Please, DJs, don't come to me. But most of the cool stuff happens in the production of the track and the remix and the edit and the VIP, and then they're just fading between a couple of them. But they are still DJing. They can change up the set list. They can speed things up. They can slow it down. They can add effects to it. And it can still be really synced visually.
But Sean, my question is, if the anime, for example, for Anima or Eric Prydz, when I see a character that is knocking or walking, if they speed up the song, then the character doesn't speed up. If they are too synced, so technically the DJ cannot speed up that song, right?
He could, yeah.
And the character
it'll speed up the time code, and the video will speed up along with it. So they could do that. I don't know that they do, but they could. And to a certain degree, obviously, if you slow things down too much, it's going to be frame. So you can only.
You have a limit.
Tolerance to it.
You have a limit.
Yeah, but a lot of those, I would say probably a lot of those effects, if they do and the visuals slow down with it, and then that's in the song, and they planned it all out,
Okay, so
it's a lot of VJing in Premiere Pro. My buddy Matt Medwood for Excision. He says he's a Premiere Pro VJ. So
So he has.
Right.
I mean, you
time
have to
code.
create
No,
it.
you're doing a lot of
Beforehand.
fucking work, but it's just
Beforehand.
happening beforehand,
Yeah.
and you're making sure it doesn't go wrong during the event. That's the main job during the event. And again, at the end of the day, the goal is entertaining people, and it is working. I guess where I want to take this is the impact that this new revolution of visuals has had, because we are seeing it live. Our parents follow completely different pages on Instagram than we do. They come to us showing Anima's visuals now. It's crazy that way.
This is what do you guys do? I was like, no, this is not what we do. But
Yeah,
yeah,
so we're
similar.
originally Persian. There are Persian pages that our parents follow that share the afterlife visuals and they call them 4D visuals. Like they're calling it the wrong
4D.
things.
Yeah, I was like-
but they're sharing it. I think that's the interesting thing. You saw that
Yeah,
one, right?
yeah.
The interesting thing is that I guess it is bringing a lot of attention into EDM, which is what we like because now, more people are seeing into the world of the music that we like, but also they care a lot more about the visuals. And me and Farah come from the visual background. So I wanted to ask you, how has that impacted your career with the new wave of visuals coming into this world?
Yeah. Well, on the festival side, not too much. I mean, there are more guest VJs coming in because with time code, you really need a dedicated team. So that helps me out. I get more bathroom breaks during the festival, so I like that. I get to see a lot more friends come through. On the content side, yeah, we're making a lot more like time code edits of things. We're making things more, less loop packages, more full production, full song edits for a lot more artists now. How else has it impacted my life? Yeah, I don't know. I don't do a ton of time code shows myself, kind of by choice because I think that it's not as exciting as a VJ. That's why I like being a house VJ, because it's something new every single time. And I get to play for like a dozen artists and never know what's coming. It like feels like being in a jam band. Let's see. Am I answering the question? What else?
No, you definitely answered the question. As a house VJ, since you said you like to be spontaneous and you go and see different artists, how do you work with different teams that are at the stage? Because the show must be cohesive. You need to have proper visual with laser, with fireworks, with the music. So you are not only working with the DJ, you are working with other teams at the same time. How does that communication happen?
Yeah, we just yell at each other. No, but it really is. It's kind of like being in a band. You're just feeling the music together. You kind of can anticipate. You could see how what sounds the lighting guy is reacting to, or the laser guy is reacting to, and kind of play off that in the way that you play. You try to have that kind of push and pull where you're not all hitting the same beats, but maybe the lights are accenting something and the visuals are accenting a different part. So you kind of lock into an instrument and like all become an instrument in the band. And you get other little things like being in a band. There's like a look that you might give somebody, like, hey, you're up. Or you might really just go over and yell at somebody and say, yo, 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 next drop, lasers, green, all you, bro, go. And then, everyone gets in position, and when the next drop comes, everybody drops out, and the lasers go crazy, and then we're all like, yeah, then we get back into it.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and, some people will get, headsets like this with the microphones, and you're actually communicating and talking. That's a little bit more professional way to do it. But a lot of guys don't really like the headset thing because, the manager is on those and they're yelling at you to do stuff. And so we just take those off and just jam
Do your own
together in
thing.
front of house. Yeah. Yeah. It's like the lead singer telling the band what to do. You don't want that. We're jamming back here, you know?
I like that. No, I feel like now that you've explained it that way, I totally understand why you like the spontaneity of these shows, because you'll get to truly be creative and you're in the moment. And when you hit this spot, it's like a little orgasm. It's just like, okay, they're on at the same time. Lights and pyro go off, and you guys never planned it together. So you get that little, I'm going to call it the orgasm, but you get that little good feeling. You know what I mean?
For real.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. Like I played in bands when I was in high school and college and stuff. And like, it's that same, I don't know if you guys ever played music at all, but like, it's that feeling without everybody looking at you on stage, which is nice. We're just hiding in our little cage in front of house, but in the dark with everybody looking the other direction. But like, we're jamming. We're part of the band. We're like, you get locked in deep in that moment. It's like a kind of flow state type of thing. Like you have to be in the moment, anticipating what's coming next all the time. And you just become part of this like living, breathing machine of people making the show happen. It's really, really fun.
Do you have any crazy story from the front of the house? Any big fuck ups or any crazy story that happened and you guys managed to solve it last minute?
Man, I thought you guys might ask me this. I should have prepared something. For me, I think every single show, this will happen. I'll be performing a set, and one of the artist managers will come over to front of house and say, "Hey, do you have the visuals?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I do. Downloaded everything that was sent to me well in advance, and it's all loaded up." They're like, "Those are not the right visuals. We have new visuals."
Oh no.
And I'm like, "Fuck. Okay. What are we gonna do about that? Do you have them on a hard drive?" No, I don't have them on a hard drive.
Yeah, of course they don't.
Can I airdrop them to you? Like this is a PC laptop. No, you cannot airdrop them to me. I'm not VJing off my phone. Can you email them to me? We are in the middle of a field, my guy. I do not have an Ethernet line capable of downloading your 100 gigs of crappy VJ loops before your artist is on in 5 minutes. Get them on a drive. They come back, put them on a drive, load them up while the artist is playing. You're dropping in the logo before the first drop so that you can hit people with the logo so they know who's on stage. You're dropping in a build up and then a drop and then a bit one at a time for the whole hour until you get through the set. That's probably that happened to me specifically at Audiotistic San Diego a couple years ago. There was an artist that was supposed to have a VJ, but they were listed on our schedule as having a guest. I was about to go on break, get a beer, and it's like 10 minutes until they're set, and nobody had showed up.
Oh,
so
shit.
I'm like, where is this guy? Like,
He needs to set up.
Somebody's fucking up. I check the production sheet, and somebody that morning had added a link to their visuals, but not notified anybody on the team. So I was downloading them off a hotspot at the festival and literally dropping clips in one by one as they were playing. And they actually hit me up after the show and said I did a great job and tried to hire me for the tour. I was like, dude, if you even fucking knew what I went through.
I think the visuals were playing in alphabetical order because he was copying them one by one.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah. I was like, logo.
So goddamn it! If you only knew what is happening at all these events that we go to behind the scenes, it's chaotic.
It can be, yeah. It's also a lot of fun. Yeah. You know, we're just hanging out with the homies, having a good time, dancing.
Honestly, you're marketing it really well. I feel like I want to give this VJing thing a try myself.
If someone is listening to this episode and getting interested,
if someone is listening,
if someone,
what are you talking about?
If someone is listening, there's
fix
an
your
ad.
sentence.
There's an ad, and they're getting interested in VJing. Yeah, there's an ad into it. How should they get started?
Well, of course, go to youtube.com/Sean
and
watch some tutorials. No, but for real, yeah.
Go to youtube.com.
Scour YouTube. Look on YouTube. There are a bunch of guys, not all named Sean Bose, that put out some pretty good tutorials on this stuff. The Resolume themselves have a great thing. It's coming up to be November. I don't know when this episode's going to come out, but Black Friday sale for Resolume. Great time to buy Resolume for cheap. It's a little bit expensive.
So it doesn't scream Resolume all the time in your ear every single time you're using it.
That's the most annoying.
Resolume Arena.
Oh my god. Have you? For anybody that has never tried, so if you download Resolume Arena and you don't pay for it, they have found the most amazing way to annoy you into buying the product. So can you do the voice again, Sean?
Resolume Arena.
There's literally that playing.
And we have two PCs making that noise all at the same time.
And it does that voice every minute. So every minute, as you have the software open, doesn't matter even if you minimize it and if you're working on something else, it's just gonna play it in the background. So
Black Friday, buy
the fucking software.
It's worth it for your mental health.
Sorry, Resolume, for cutting your revenue, but I think they make plenty of sales that day, so they'll be all right. So yeah, I would look, get on YouTube, start playing with it. If you don't want to get into Resolume and you have a Mac, VDMX is cool, Modulate is cool, Mad Mapper is cool. There's a bunch of other ones you could check out. If you're really serious about it, I would probably go Resolume, just because like everybody's doing it. It's kind of the standard at this point, and a lot of resources for it. Check out some tutorials. Go through, read the fucking manual. Like, it's actually kind of entertaining. They do a good job with it. Figure out how it works, and just like start jamming. Get a projector. Get a big TV. Jam in your bedroom and start telling everybody that you're doing that you want to be a VJ, that you're VJing. Hit up some of your favorite VJs. My DMs are open. I respond to people only if you use full sentences and like ask an interesting question. That's my tip. Don't just say, hey, teach me to VJ.
No, hey, just hey. Empty hey. We get a lot of DM that it says, hey. What do you want?
Yeah, like get into it. Don't make me pull it out of you. Don't email me saying learn VJ. Like, full sentences, please. And dude, I have a pile of learn VJ emails. It's crazy. Anyway, do that, and just get out there. Try to talk to a friend that's a VJ. Maybe they get sick, sneeze on them a little bit, fill in for one of their gigs. I've done like 20 VJ interviews on my channel, and pretty much everybody, including me, got their first gig filling in for somebody. It was a friend that was a VJ, and they just like picked up a gig at one of their regular spots at a club. So
dude,
do that.
That's hold on. That was so interesting because for everybody that has just found out about Sean's channel. He does a lot of amazing podcasts himself with other VJs, and it's a gold mine for information about VJs. We listened to some of them, and there's so much interesting information about how people get started, because you also asked their origin stories. But one common theme that I didn't find out, which you've definitely mentioned just now, is that they filled in for other people, and that's how they got their foot in the door. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because that is, it's not like every job works that way.
Means always be ready.
Yeah. I mean, it's just something that I found, and because that's how I got my start. Maybe I like notice when people say that more, but a very common story is that somebody is trying to be a VJ. They've been practicing on their own, which is key. Like, you want to be ready for when that opportunity opens. Get your practice in, tell people that you want to VJ, and then when your friend has another gig and can't do their local club gig or gets sick or whatever, they'll tap you to come in, get tagged in, and do the gig. And if you do a good job, you'll get called back, or they'll recommend you for another gig. Like Sandy Meidinger she is Illenium's VJ right now. Got that gig by filling in on one of his like club sets somewhere for a friend who is the VJ before that. Wow. And she got her first gig, I think, also filling in at a club in Los Angeles. She would drive all the way from San Diego to Los Angeles on Friday night after work to go like fill in at this club, and then became a regular there. And then that person was doing watch the episode, but that person was doing Seven Lions. She filled in on Seven Lions.
Wow.
And they were connected to Illenium. They got recommended for Illenium. Like, just, I don't know.
So
I don't remember the details.
It's about being prepared, but also being in the community. Having friends in the community that will let you fill in because they trust you. So it's very important to be part of the community, and that is something that a lot of people don't do. If you're especially introverted, you probably prefer to do it alone. And I guess in this industry that you're talking about, that doesn't work that way. You should be communicative with other people.
Oh, totally. Yeah, and it's a small world. Like, there's not a ton of VJs out there. So just get into the community, hang out at shows, get in people's DMs. If you have some local friends that are VJs, just start hanging out at shows with them. Go to online. You can get into the community. If you're not in like one of these cities that has a community, you can go onto like VJ Union Facebook group or their website, vjun.io. Get involved there. There's like a massive global community of VJs on there. And like, again, if you ask good questions, use full sentences, and show cool work that you're working on, somebody might notice you and tag you in for something. And that's really all that it is. And it's so small. Like, get it. You can also do this with if you have friends that are DJs and they get a small set, and you can do, maybe they're not getting paid for their set, and you can come in and be the VJ for their opening set at, EDC or some Insomniac festival. You get to VJ, that gets you into front of house. You get to meet the house VJ there, hang around a little bit if you're cool, and meet some of the guests coming in for the headliners. And if you do a good job and you're not an asshole, you're not doing a bunch of drugs, getting drunk, whatever, like, don't make a fool of yourself, then like, people will remember you. They might recommend you for other gigs or tag you in. Yeah, it's like, it's all community. And And
Well, if you do a bunch of
it's really
drugs
not that
and do
hard to
some
get
weird
in.
shit, they will remember you as well.
But for a bad reason, yeah. They will remember not to call
Fair
you
enough, fair
anymore.
enough.
They will definitely
Fair
remember.
enough.
Don't call that guy anymore. He spilled all
Yeah,
the drinks
the-
on the deck, yeah.
Sometimes it's not good to be remembered.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for the description of what you just explained and also for sharing your life story. I feel like it is extremely interesting to find out about how you started, but also when we went through your freelancing gig and we talked about the freelance manifesto, the tips that you
journey.
gave, the journey, and the experience of a VJ is very enlightening to us because this is something me and Farhad are extremely and deeply interested in. And we realize that a lot of our audience is also interested in this because, again, you can be a 2D artist, a 3D artist, or not an artist at all, but eventually become interested in this field. And there's so many ways you can enter it, right? Based on people's experiences. So once again, thank you so much for sharing this information, and we wish you the very best in all the amazing shows that you have coming up. And hopefully we'll make it to one of them and see you playing live.
Yeah, totally. Thank you guys so much for having me on here. It was really exciting. I'm used to being on the other side of this equation, so it was fun to be on this side of the camera.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you very much.
Absolutely. And for everybody watching and listening, as Sean just mentioned, he does have his own podcast as well. So if you're interested in VJing and anything in this world, please go check out his own channel because there's a lot more information and a lot more amazing content for you to find. And with that, for everybody watching and listening, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next episode. Until then, ciao.